2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee. So here's one I've been called into. It's been sitting, I think, for about 6 years, and it was flat. It only had 8 psi of refrigerant in it. Now, my brother did this back in 2017. So my brother was also electric air conditioning, and I could just make out a little bit of his writing right there. That's a 17. So this is my brother's writing, Joe, and he did this back at that time. And it was completely flat. So it was like driven for a little bit, and then it was parked and stored. So now here we are several years later, and I did a nitrogen test, 170 psi, passed, did not even lose 1/10 of 1 psi after 5 minutes. So that was no problem. Got it charged, working perfectly mechanically for the AC system itself, but the blend doors are not working. So this is one, like you have the actuators for the blend doors, nothing is working, and absolutely was coming nowhere. Well, what I started to do was kick my feet on the bottom of the case really hard, repeatedly, as I would move it through the different positions. And then it would start to move just a little bit. So something, just a little something would come out of the duct here. Then I would go up to defrost. Before there was nothing. And when I'd kick my feet really hard, move it in and defrost, it would move a little bit, the actuator doors. So what happens is the grease that is used on all the hinges has gotten really old, hard, and crusty, and it's become like a thick molasses instead of a nice lubricating grease. And the actuators are not strong enough to push them. So the technician's gonna go up there, try to get physical movement, like getting a screwdriver or your finger. You see what way the gear teeth start to move, or the actuators, and you move the positions and you help them move. And sometimes you might get lucky and break it free and work it back and forth, and without tearing too much stuff apart or replacing parts, you might be able to do that. That's what he's going to find out right now. That's not included in the air conditioning recharge. We had an old system not working. You have to get the AC working, which I could prove right now. It's working. It's getting nice and cold. We're getting condensation. We got water forming. But we have no high side load because there's no air blowing over the evaporator to put a load on it. So that's why our high side is so low. No, this is not a 2015 Prius where 88 psi would be normal on a low day. That doesn't happen on these old Jeeps. It would be much higher. Airflow is king. Airflow affects your high side pressure. So this high side pressure is so low because there's no airflow over the evaporator to put a load on the evaporator to cause the refrigerant to have a change of state. It goes through a phase change, and then the evaporation occurs like boiling water, and you make steam and you make pressure. Think of it that way. So you raise the high, you put a load on the low side, and it gets compressed in the compressor, and then that takes all that energy and increases its pressure and temperature. While that's not happening because there's no load. There's no BTU input of heat energy being put into the low side to increase the high side. All right, guys, I'll see you later. We'll leave this one go. It has more work to do.